Welcome in, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Just letting folks join. We'll get started in just a moment. Thanks for being here. Okay. Well, some more folks might trickle in, but we'll get the show on the road. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all this afternoon. If there's anyone here I haven't met, I'm not sure that's true right now, but if I'm wrong, I'm Erin. I'm the eeCorps program coordinator, and I'm excited to gather with all of you this afternoon to celebrate Hailey, Sarah, and Therese as they complete their terms of service with the eeCorps this week, and to highlight everything that they did, everything, every single thing. It's going to be comprehensive. Highlight everything they did and learned throughout their terms. We're going to start today with individual spotlights. So each of them will get a few minutes to share about a highlight from their term, and then we'll all come together for a panel discussion with all three. So it should be lots of fun and, like I said, comprehensive. As we go along, feel free to drop comments, questions, reactions in the chat, and it'd be super fun to have amass like a celebratory feedback in there. So definitely stay active in there as we go. And if there's questions, we potentially may be able to answer some of those in the chat, or if there's time at the very end, and who knows. But if there's time at the very end, we may be able to do some of those with the panel as well. So yeah, use the chat as much as you like. And with all of that out of the way, I think that's all the housekeeping we need. So with that out of the way, I would love to hand things off first of all to Miriam to introduce our first speaker, Hailey. Miriam, would you mind telling us a little about Hailey?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Miriam, and I obviously work with Hailey at the School Food Project. I'd also just like to say it's great to be back amongst the eCorps. That's how I started here at the School Food Project 5 years ago, which is wild. But yeah, it has been just an amazing experience to watch Hailey step into the role this year here, and it's been quite a busy one. She's done class visits, field trips, cafeteria programming, and after school sessions. And through that has helped us reach not just hundreds, but thousands more students across the district. She has instructed lessons for kindergartners, middle schoolers, and high schoolers on how to engage healthfully with your bodies and the environment through food, from how to grow it to how to eat it. All in all, she's made an amazing impact throughout the district, and especially within our team here. So we're so lucky to have had her, and we are excited for her on her next steps next year at Waldorf. We'll miss her.
Thank you, Miriam. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Okay, does everyone see
You're good.
those slides? All right, so thank you all for being there, and thank you, Miriam, that was so sweet. So through my work with the Farm to School movement at the School Food Project, I have been able to develop a teaching philosophy rooted in reciprocity. I understand environmental ed as relational, so centered on the idea that humans are not separate from their natural world surrounding them, but in an ongoing relationship with it. And in this way, learning becomes about cultivating awareness of how we are connected and how we participate within those systems. So, to add on to that, food systems have become a key entry point for bringing this philosophy into life for me. So when students explore where food comes from, they're also exploring the relationships between people, land, and living systems. This lens naturally opens space for conversations around community well-being, equity, and ecological health. So my goal is to help students develop awareness, empathy, and responsibility while seeing themselves as active participants in systems that sustain them. And a core part of my teaching philosophy is that students will hopefully learn with their whole body, which means with not only their minds, but also their hands and their hearts, especially when we talk about farm to school. All right, so as Mira mentioned, we do work on a few programs over at the School Food Project, and we have been able to reach a little over 9,000 students, which I'm super proud about and honored to have been a part of. And I want to focus and narrow in on one of the programs I hold near and dear to my heart, which is the Ambassador Program. So, at the beginning of my term, our team identified a gap. Secondary age students were largely missing from our outreach efforts and teaching initiatives that tell the story of the school food project. However, we all agreed that this is such a critical stage where students are developing identities, values, and a sense of agency. So the question became, how do we engage these students into these conversations and get them more aware of their food system that exists all within their campus? And how does that feel relevant and meaningful to them? So, to address this, I focused on capturing their attention through framing our work around three pillars of sustainability, which is the environmental, social, and economic. So, hopefully, students could begin to see how food systems are already connected and deeply intertwined with their everyday lives and their communities and the choices that they make. And as more students became curious about these connections through outreach and facilitation, I had envisioned creating something that could sustain and deepen that engagement, which was this program, the Ambassador Program. And this cannot exist without students leading the way. And the goal was to create a space where students are not just participants, but leaders telling the story of how impactful their lunch tray really is for their health, their energy, their community, and especially the planet. And through this program, students were able to develop civic leadership skills and shape a more positive and holistic school lunch culture through their voices and their actions and perspectives. And right here is a screenshot of the first page of the Student Ambassador Handbook that I created for the School Food Project, which is just the overview. And one example that brings this all to life is from one of our ambassadors who connected the School Food Project to her middle school climate literacy class. She was motivated to deepen in the understanding between food and the environment amongst her peers. And as part of the program, the School Food Ambassador Program, each student creates their own passion project. And hers was to create a school garden focused on native plant resilience and pollinator support. And through building and caring for that garden, their class is able to experience interconnectivity firsthand, seeing how soil, plants, pollinators, and people all relate to each other and rely on each other. And this is where we tie back in my teaching philosophy of reciprocity, and it moves my idea of it into something lived. And also, hopefully, they'll understand their responsibility as stewards of the land they are part of through this garden. And the impact of this program doesn't stop just here. So I have this Venn diagram because it shows that the School Food Project was able to deepen our partnerships within our school network, within the community. And it's just so awesome to think about all the people we've connected to and students. And I want to close with a reflection from one of the ambassadors, Harper Hatch from middle school, because I think it captures this ambassador program and its impact it's had. She said to me, farm to school literacy means a stronger understanding amongst students of where their food comes from. A stronger connection with food elicits a stronger environmental awareness. So thank you for listening to that in such a short time. Let me stop sharing my screen. And thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Hailey. That's such a cool program and so powerful. And I love how it connects to your teaching philosophy and just illustrates that. And like you said, kind of brings it to life. So cool to hear about. Thank you for sharing. As we go along, continue to please drop any comments, reactions, questions in the chat for Hailey and celebrate Hailey and all she's done. And then as you do that, we will hand things off next to Nellie, who I think I saw on the list here, to introduce Therese. Nellie, do you mind telling us about Therese?
Absolutely. I would love to. So yeah, Therese is a wonderful human. They've been serving at Bird Conservancy since September. First, I'll just share a little bit about Bird Conservancy. We're a conservation nonprofit just outside of Denver in Brighton. And we also have an office up in Fort Collins. But our education team is out in Brighton. That's where Therese and also the wonderful Emily I hear there's three Emilys. Emily D has been serving Therese since September and Emily since February. They've been living out of the Environmental Learning Center in Brighton. And yeah, through our work, we reach a lot of different folks, a lot of school children from Denver metro area. We also have kids up in Fort Collins that we work with. We work with different communities. And yeah, so Therese, like I said, started in September um, during a very busy bird banding field trip season. So kind of crazy thing to dive right in on your first day, but I'm pretty sure we had Therese shadowing a program right off the bat. Yeah, so we do a lot of field trips with school programs. We also go into classrooms. Therese was great with that this winter. They really took the lead on that, always staffing those programs in classrooms. And then this spring, we've had kids at our Environmental Learning Center again. And yeah, Therese was also so helpful with all the career fairs and community outreach programs like environmental festivals or little events from partner orgs. Um, Bird walks too. Therese got started leading bird walks right off the bat at our fall birding festival. I think that was like week one. Yeah, and so we led a lot of bird walks this season. And yeah, Therese has been amazing. I was just chatting with them before this, and they have reached over 1,500 kids this over their 9 months of service. Pretty awesome. And yeah, so in addition to bringing a lot of impact to kids with environmental learning, they're also wonderful to have on our team. Um, Such a joy, such a positive force in our office, such a big help. And then I think that Therese also brings a really awesome, fresh perspective to a lot of our programming that they'll probably talk about here in a sec. Yeah, so thank you, Therese. Excited to hear what you have to say.
Much for that introduction. Let me just share my screen here. Um, all right, can everybody see that? Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so thanks again for that introduction, Ellie. And yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my last 9 months with Bird Conservancy, and how everything kind of ties back to Bird Conservancy's like main like kind of overarching goal of connecting people, birds, and land in some way or another. Yeah, so like Nellie was just saying, I have led a lot of different types of programs, from field trips, spanning field trips in the fall and different field trips this spring, as well as reverse field trips over the winter and other community programs. They've all been incredible experiences, and um, my main goal throughout these is to connect learners to the natural world through hands-on exploration and inquiry. It's been really cool to see learners get really excited about something that they might not have spent a lot of time thinking about before. And throughout these programs, I've also learned a lot myself and grown my own personal connection with Colorado's nature and wildlife. So the main project that I'm going to talk about today, and that I worked on this term, is based on the space that we have here at the Environmental Learning Center at Bar Lake. The education director here, Sherry, has put a lot of time and effort into creating these beautiful demonstration gardens, based on different ecosystems that you can find around Colorado. So like shrubland or wetland and that kind of thing. In that top left picture, you can actually see she also spent a lot of time making pollinator gardens that kind of wrap around the side of Old Stone House. Um, and yeah, so I just wanted to kind of work these plants and these gardens into a lesson plan somehow, and initially just had the idea of creating a lesson plan based on ethnobotany and talking about the connections between people and the land and plants and birds and all that. And from there, it kind of turned into a bit of a bigger project, which I'm really excited about. In January, I got to attend a talk given by Louis Tauble, who's a member of the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes, and Kate Wilkins, who's a grassland ecologist. And they talked about creating a medicine wheel garden down in Daniels Park, which is just south of Denver. And after that, I connected with Lewis and his wife Esther, who lead an Indigenous restoration initiative called Sacred Return. And we talked about a lot of ways that we can work together to, continue to create this space around the Environmental Learning Center, and continue to make it a space for learning and connection and, really um just connecting people with the land. And so we talked about a lot of different things that we could do here, including bringing more plants, specific plants, some that I've included on the slides here, like sage and bee balm and red willow, into our space, into our existing gardens, as well as using this space here for hosting events or programs for Indigenous youth, or the community overall. And then another thing that we talked about that I'm really excited about is creating a medicine wheel garden in the space here that can be used in a few different ways. Um, and it's still in the very beginning like steps of the process, but kind of figuring out exactly where it will go, how big it can be, what plants will be included, and exactly what that will look like has been really exciting. And I guess just as an overview for what a medicine wheel garden usually looks like, is it's kind of this circular garden that you see down here on the bottom. This is the one at Daniels Park that they created, and it's divided into four quadrants that each represent a different color, a different season, a different stage of life. And so that being, or having one here would be really cool to really connect people with what those plants could be used for and um, really learning from the traditional knowledge of the indigenous people who've lived here long before us. So yeah, this was the main project that I worked on this term, and it's definitely still in the beginning stages for a lot of the different parts of it, but I'm really excited to see where it goes. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Therese. I know you said beginning stages of that project for sure, and it's tough in a short term to feel like you get the satisfying arc in a project like that because it does is going to span a long time. But such a valuable project and such valuable connections you're initiating for bird conservancy. So super cool. So yeah, continue dropping your reactions and comments and questions in the chat for Therese. And I would love to now pass things over to Amanda to tell us a little bit about Sarah.
Hi, yeah, I am Sarah Buckley's supervisor. I'm the director of camp and collections here at Dinosaur Ridge in Morrison. Our mission is to educate visitors about the evolving history of Dinosaur Ridge while advancing scientific research and fossil protection. Sarah was first a seasonal camp leader here and then became our AmeriCorps service member in February 2025 and has now served 2 terms. They've been an integral part of our education department and have made a huge impact on improving our camp programming with their endless creativity and energy in updating our camp activities, as well as creating a brand new lesson plan for the theme Prehistoric Protectors, which is our sustainability and environmental themed camp that we introduced last year. They've always been willing to step in to expand our education program reach by doing programs in school classrooms, as well as leading tours for our on-site programs for all ages. Thank you so much, Sarah, and all the luck on your next journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm literally gonna tear up. It has been 2 years with Dinosaur Ridge basically at this point, and it's gonna be super crazy to not be there anymore. So yeah, definitely having a lot of feelings about that. Can everybody see my slides okay? Okay, and you can see, oh shoot. You can see my slides and not your slides and not my slides, right? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, let me take a sip before I get started. So thank you again, Amanda. I really appreciate it. Um, Uh, so I just want to talk a little bit today about some of the new experiences and professional growth opportunities that I got to experience in my second eeCorps term specifically. I got a lot of cool experiences in my first term as well, but I only have a few minutes to talk about things. Um, so this term, I primarily led interpretive tours for kindergarten through high school. I also worked on planning some new activities, field trips, and guest speakers for summer camp. I was able to work with some new community partners through outreach events, as well as some site visits to Bird Conservancy. I went and saw Therese there, as well as Denver Audubon over at Chatfield. And I also was able to set up some new field trips and guest speakers for summer camp, just to kind of refresh things because we have campers that come back every single year. And then I got to attend my first and then three more conferences, which was really exciting as well. So, just to talk about some of those conferences, because I felt like they were super valuable experiences. The Colorado Association of Science Teachers Conference happened last fall at CSU Spur. And there I got to spend a whole day with science teachers from all around Colorado, and I learned more about what it would actually be like to teach in a classroom. Temple Grandin was also the keynote speaker, and her speech really like lit a fire under me to make science education more approachable and appealing for all kids. Um, and then at the CAEE spring and fall conferences, I had the opportunity to learn more about the theories of environmental education and then connect with other EE providers from all over Colorado, which was also super cool. And then I also was really lucky to be able to attend the NAAE conference this last year because it happened online. And that was a super fun mix of environmental and science educators from all over North America. And I learned a really huge variety of cool things with a lot of focus on incorporating environmental education into the classroom, which I thought was super interesting. Um, and then I also, this was a course that I started in my first term, but I got to complete a nature journaling educators course, which ended in a like full day workshop, which made me super excited about the idea of utilizing nature journals for longer term learning goals in like a science context. Another one of the new things that I got to do this term was I got to go to a classroom and present to third through fifth graders. So I went to West Jefferson Elementary out in Conifer, and I got to talk about paleontology and Dinosaur Ridge before I led a hands-on fossil investigation with the students. And that was really cool because I got to experience what it's like to actually be in the classroom, which isn't something that I was usually able to do in my role. Um, and then some of the feedback that I got this term, which really just made me feel extra confident and motivated to continue doing this. I had a fifth grader who told me that it was the best field trip she had ever been on, and she wished that she could stay even longer and keep learning more. I had an eighth grader tell me that she wanted me to be her science teacher in front of her actual science teacher, who seemed super cool. So I was like, okay, be nice, but also Thank you. Um, and then I also had a girl tell me that she was telling me the whole field trip how bad she wanted to be a paleontologist. But then at the end, she was like, "You made me want to be a paleontologist even more than I did before." And those, like I said, those are really the things that like keep me motivated and make me excited to work with students. So, looking forward, what all of this has culminated in is that I have made the decision to become a classroom science teacher. So that is going to look like substitute teaching in the fall just to get some experience in the classroom. I'm also working on completing my master's in environmental science. So I should finish that up next spring, hopefully. And then I will complete a 1-year non-traditional licensure program. And then I will be a fully licensed teacher in the state of Colorado, hopefully. So fingers crossed within the next couple of years, I will be teaching middle school or early high school science. Okay, and that is my presentation.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
It has been so fun to watch you sort of find this sense of direction in this path over the last 2 terms, and I can't wait for all your future learners to meet you. It's going to be so
Thank
great.
you. Sorry, pets are, doing their thing in and out of the room. So
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing, Sarah, and thank you again to all three of you. It's been so fun to hear about some highlights of your terms of service. Again, as we go forward, continue throwing anything in the chat that you want to, any questions, comments, reactions for our three, and we are going to move right on into our panel. So let me get all three of you on here for everybody. And yeah, we are going to start with a quick snapshot from each of you. So I'd love for each of you to describe your service in 3 words. And just to keep us moving, I'll start with Therese. I'll be specific.
All right, yeah. I think 3 words that I would describe my service are fulfilling, interconnectedness, and growth.
Amazing. And Hailey?
I would choose oneness, belonging, and interdisciplinary. And interdisciplinary felt right and the most stand out or stood out most to me because I feel like with all of our approaches, we're constantly meeting students with different backgrounds. And I think that being conscious of that through every lens that we have as we all are teaching different things has been at the forefront for my journey.
Amazing. And Sarah?
I am going to say growth, flexibility, and enthusiasm. It really takes a lot of adapting and maintaining energy to keep kids engaged. And I think I did a good job at embodying enthusiasm, especially.
I believe it. Yeah, for sure. Amazing. Cool. Well, to start going a little deeper, but with like a zoomed out lens to start with, looking at kind of the bigger picture, what impact, and this question is for all three of you, what impact do you hope your service will have long term? And this time, maybe, yeah, go ahead, Therese. We can go same order. Maybe that's simplest.
Um, yeah, so just in general, I really hope that just everybody that I interacted with in any program, whether that's, really young children or adults or really anybody in between, I hope that they've just formed a deeper connection with the world around them. And, I hope that I had an impact in them being a little bit more intentional or reflective about their personal relationship with nature and have helped them form values rooted in the well-being of both people and nature. And I often think about a quote from David Attenborough that I feel like you guys have probably heard before, but it kind of just like guides my like why as an educator. And he says, if children grow up not knowing about nature and appreciating it, um, then they will not understand it. And if they don't understand it, they won't protect it. And if they don't protect it, then who will? So yeah, that's just my kind of guiding, I guess, quote that really I hope that my impact has connected more people with the environment.
Thanks, Therese.
I absolutely loved that answer. Same here, but yeah, just kind of like planting seeds of awareness and also maybe sparking a newfound appreciation for, um, you know, the nature all around them in whatever way they can connect. But hopefully that kind of stirs some gears. And maybe if they are too young now to kind of reflect on it, maybe as they get older, we have some hope as they can look back and kind of take from what they have learned in the past. And I also want to share out a little personal story of I taught a kindergarten class, which is my personal favorite grade to teach. And I had gotten feedback from the teacher, and they were saying how the next day the student went to the library and picked out a book that covered the topic that we kind of discussed. And seeing the impact on a kindergarten student, picking out a book the next day, it just made me feel meaning of like why I show up. And it's kind of that hope in those kiddos. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Hailey.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you, of course. I really hope that the students I work with are inspired to maintain curiosity and keep learning more about any of the things that interest them, whether that's dinosaurs and paleontology or geology or some other thing that isn't related at all. I just want them to feel excited about learning and like taking their learning into their own hands. Um, I also hope that I make even just a few of them excited about the idea of being a scientist or an educator. I mean, I'm sure all of us as educators have this like fantasy that someday some kid will be like, that's the person that like really impacted me. So it's like, I hope that something that I say, even if it's just to like a couple of kids, inspires something in them that like they're able to continue nurturing for the rest of their lives. Like I just want it to like make them interested in learning. That is really what I'm trying to instill in them.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, all three. I feel like there's echoes of Teresa's beginning project as like, you won't maybe ever see all these impacts, but we're sparking something. We're creating this uh, connection and care and curiosity that hopefully will go far beyond. That's awesome. To dig a little deeper into what service looks like, sort of zooming in, what service actually looked like for each of you on the ground. This time we'll start with Sarah. Sarah, how did you make environmental topics accessible or interesting to your audience?
Yeah, so this I said as one of the like three words to describe my service was flexibility. Um, And that's really a huge part of this. I worked with such a huge variety of students, just from like different ages, backgrounds, life experiences, as I'm sure most of us have, and really being able to go with the flow and adapt to what they're expressing interest in, I think has been kind of a key part of that. So I really do my best to keep them active and engaged. So using like observe, wonder, and learn in our interpretive like tours. And then trying to use their responses to connect the concepts back to what they already know. We do a lot of like comparison. So with one of the activities, it is like usually younger kids, and they are uncovering a bunch of replica fossils. And one of the big replica fossils in there is a femur bone. And so a lot of times we will kind of help kids, like guide kids to figuring out that that's what kind of bone it is, because we're like, think about where the biggest bones are in your body. And then like using that comparison to be like, okay, so what part of the body do we think like these huge bones are from? And that's kind of like how we get them to figure the answer out on their own. So yeah, I definitely think that like adapting to the place that like different groups are in their like learning journey, and then just helping like guide them to things through what they already know, because if they start getting frustrated and can't like connect it back to anything that they already understand, you're just going to lose them.
Really. And yeah, connected to something within their own bodies. Great. What a great example. Cool. Thanks, Sarah. And Therese, what did you learn about the importance of place-based education?
Yeah. So something that I often think about is how people like often think about nature as some place that you go to, rather as something that really exists all around us. Um, which is a really important concept for, especially for people who might not have access to reliable transportation or might face other barriers, to access that like real nature. Um, so learning to see nature as it exists around us is just really incredibly important, not only for connecting to like just the world around us, but also for all those incredible like mental health benefits that being in nature for a certain amount of time provides. So yeah, place-based education can really root students where they are and like feed their curiosity while helping them feel safe in that environment. And it can help them kind of make connections between something that they might see every day and something um, that they might just see once. Um, and yeah, so during a lot of our programs, we connect a lot of what we talk about to things that students experience daily or what they might see often at their schools, at home, just wherever they are, really. And this helps to contextualize what we're talking about and keep them engaged, while also providing a basic understanding of that topic, that they can apply elsewhere. So, yeah, this is really important for them to continue making connections, in learning just throughout their lives. Um, and this also makes me think of another program that we have, or a specific program we have, I guess, called Schoolyard Nature Exploration, which is exactly what it sounds like. And it kind of just gives students a space to form observation skills and really enhance their curiosity in a place where they feel safe, in a place that's familiar to them and they're comfortable. And they often come away from those programs with new questions and observations about this place that they might think of as boring or mundane or like devoid of nature. And the realization that they're surrounded by nature is just really important for them. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Therese. Yeah, that's huge. And how can you connect them not just to nature as an abstract, faraway concept, but nature as it is surrounding us? Because otherwise we wouldn't be alive. We exist in nature. We're part of nature. Amazing. Cool. Thanks, Therese. And Hailey, did you encounter any resistance or misconceptions about environmental issues in your service, and how did you respond?
So, you know, when we're talking about food, we always have to talk about the soils. And a lot of our hands-on activities, people were getting their hands in the dirt somehow, one way or another. And most of the time, I heard it from secondary age students, but they kind of came in with preconceived notions of, oh, that's dirty or gross, and these big keywords. And instead of kind of like getting frustrated or having them sit out and like not participate, I found that to be an entryway into connecting deeper to students, but also um, connecting it deeper to, or connecting the topic to themselves. So kind of echoing both of you, meeting them where they're at, especially with smaller groups. I was able to kind of like talk about them. Have you ever gardened before? Just try to have these conversations that flow, um, and really try to see how they can relate to it. And maybe that's sharing a cultural background story, whatever it is. But that's one technique that I use to kind of like shift perspective. Another technique was outlining the impact. So, kind of think about when we're planting seeds or maybe whatever it is in the greenhouse, we kind of mention, hey, in doing this action, we're benefiting our pollinators, or in doing the action of composting, we're benefiting so many different people, and different species and the ecosystems around us. So just kind of showcasing how, not how humans benefit solely, but how we are all one benefiting from these actions. And I think by doing that, I was able to engage a lot of students out of their own mind and out of their own way, and kind of make it more fun for them to get their hands dirty and excited. And then, also offering, I'll spray a hose on your hands. Come on, please participate. And sometimes that works. And then lastly, I definitely have used senses in a lot of my facilitation this term. I've recognized that at any age, incorporating your senses into your teaching creates a whole nother atmosphere. And again, yeah, I guess just like smelling the dirt or whatever it is, not tasting, but you get the point. They kind of get more excited because, again, it's creating a connection that they otherwise wouldn't have done. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Hailey. Yeah, lots of underlying themes here around connection and just connecting learners to the subject matter and to their environment. Amazing. Um, Next, so environmental education is often fun for both the educators and the learners, but it's not always smooth. That said, Sarah, you talked a little bit about flexibility already, but I'd love to hear a little more from Sarah and Therese. How did you handle moments when participants seemed disengaged or uninterested? And either one of you can start, or I can specify. Yeah, go ahead, Therese.
Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, programs aren't always going to go super smoothly. There's going to be participants that are just uninterested. And the best way that I found to deal with these situations is to be prepared with backup activities. I found that a change of pace or a change of setting can, quickly like grab the attention of a disengaged learner. And this kind of reminds me of during the fall, during our banding field trips. Um, it was a kind of a quiet season. There weren't as many birds as there have been in the past. And this at the banding station, uh, a lot of students were, asking where are the birds? When are we going to see the birds? And then especially on the exploration hikes, I feel like a lot of the walk time kind of relies on birds being around so we can talk about them and have learners practice how to use their binoculars and describing what they see and all that. So on those quieter days, being prepared with activities like a rainbow hike or asking students to look for like evidence of birds, even if they might not see those birds, can really um, help them continue to make observations about the world around them, even if they're not seeing the birds that they thought they were going to see that day. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good example of live animals that you can't predict. Uh, Sarah, what else would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, usually when students are disengaged, I would take a similar approach. Although I mostly lead tours, or at least that's what I did in this last term. So I would just try to kind of like have some kind of hands-on activity with me that I could toss in if like most of the group was disengaged. So today I actually had a fourth grade group that they just kept getting off track, couldn't focus. There was nowhere for them to sit because all the benches were wet. So they were just kind of all over the place. But whenever I pulled the props out for them at each of the stops, suddenly they were able to refocus. So just having some kind of thing for them to touch and hold was really helpful. I also try to have, kind of like a structured, unstructured time at some point towards the end where they like of each of our tour stops where they can kind of just look around on their own and ask questions about things that they're interested in. And I think that that tends to help for kids who aren't interested in like super specific talking points, but they have their own questions that they're just thinking about while I'm talking, which is completely fair. But if there's just like a kid or two who refuses to engage or just can't stay focused at like summer camp or on a field trip, my focus really just becomes, I mean, making sure that they're staying safe and having as good of a time as they can, but really just preventing them from disrupting other kids. If the thing that they get out of like a field trip or camp is just getting some fresh air, getting some sunshine. I don't want to make that a not fun experience by trying to force them into like participating in something that they're just not gonna engage with. And that's not to say that I don't encourage engagement, but at some point it's just like, okay, I trust you. This is what you need. You need a break. So like you can have that, but just don't disrupt the learning of other students. And I find that to be helpful because that prevents getting the entire group off track because one kid or two kids are just like chattering amongst themselves or whatever.
Amazing. I love that. Thanks, Sarah. I think a lot about like, yeah, come back to what are the goals of this? And yeah, if your goal is that they learn something, hopefully, and also are outside having a good time, great. Yeah, reframe that in your mind so that it continues on. Doesn't bog you down either. Amazing. Shifting a little bit from challenges to how this experience shaped your perspective, Therese and Hailey, I'd love to hear from you about what does environmental stewardship mean to you now?
Okay, so I want to refer back to an activity that we do a lot of the time with our younger kiddos, which is visiting our vermicompost bin outside in our garden bed area. And I'm bringing this up because to start off, I like to have the kids when they're, before they even hold the worm in their hand and get to explore the soil, I kind of go over, hey, if a worm is doing a break dance in your hand, that means that it's uncomfortable. And teaching these different concepts about this little critter that they probably think is really cool, but haven't really considered, oh, it might have feelings. Oh, it needs respect. So creating this feeling of, hey, I have to respect this thing that I get to hold, right? And just right there is creating pathways into being a steward of your place and the ecosystems that exist. And then with this lesson, we get to feed our worms the produce. So we try all different produce in our greenhouse sometimes, and then whatever scraps we have, we feed back to the worms. And when the kids do this, we explain, hey, they get to eat up all this waste and create soil that then our farmers or we can use to grow even more food. So demonstrating those circular systems again goes back to kind of my teaching philosophy of just that reciprocity factor that exists. And I think environmental stewardship is just, yeah, kind of like really stepping into respect for your world, and also learning how to give back and finding modes to do this. And at such a young age, too, well, the younger age students, they can also find these little things or just think about concepts differently or think about worms and these critters that they never really thought about in that way, in this new light. So I hope that answered the question.
Thanks, Hailey. And Therese?
Yeah, um, totally agree with everything that Haley just said. Um, and I think that like our perspectives of environmental stewardship can really shift so much as our like personal relationship with nature shifts and grows. And that's something that I've really thought about over the past year of um, you know, uh being more on the research side of things, and I feel like seeing things through a more maybe analytical, I don't know if that's the right word to use, kind of perspective. And then throughout this term, really, connecting stewardship with the programs that I was leading and, t teaching kids about like seven simple actions to help birds and different things like that. It kind of just shifts and grows with us as we shift, as we grow as well. And I think that is something that I'm excited to continue learning um, about how to care for and respect our earth.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Therese. So reflecting now on just everything you've done, just everything. I'd love to start with Hailey this time. How did your service deepen your connection to the local community?
Yeah, so fortunately, I was able to connect, like I said in kind of that presentation at first, we were able to reach people within our school network. And that looked like going to different middle school green clubs, sustainability clubs, and chatting with them. We got to meet with the Green Youth Council in our school. Uh, we also got to connect with people outside of the school space, and that looked like connecting with soil companies in our local community. And they actually ended up donating 6 yards of soil to the garden for free. And just in believing in the mission of students. And we also got to connect with this nonprofit in Boulder called Classrooms for Climate Action. And they are dedicated to creating spaces in classrooms to talk about climate literacy. And they actually have established a partnership with the School Food Project now that they're going to invite us into their classroom spaces moving forward every year to present on the food systems lens when we talk about climate literacy. So, with all that being said, we were able to just constantly be in connection with our community. And I think that that was super special because I am a big believer in grassroots movements. And I think that the School Food Project kind of demonstrates that movement. It's student led, it's school food project led, it's parents led. So yeah, I really believe in the power of, where we're at.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Haley. Lots of cool connections. Sarah, how did you stay motivated during difficult moments?
So I talked about some of the positive feedback I got from students during my term. And really that is the main thing that keeps me motivated. It reminds me of younger me who didn't really have teachers. He didn't have enough teachers anyways, that were willing to nurture my love for science, especially earth sciences. And so that really motivates me to be one of those teachers. Honestly, the people in my personal life also really have to help me maintain my motivation sometimes. So I'm really lucky to have a good support system also, which I think is super important when doing education work, because it can be really draining.
Definitely. Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And Therese, how has this experience influenced your future goals or career path?
Yeah, so I just want to start off saying that like I am really grateful for the opportunities that I've gotten throughout this term to grow, not just as an educator, but as a person as well. From participating in professional development opportunities to connecting with other eeCorps members and BCR staff. I've really learned so much and met so many incredible people that have influenced how I'm gonna approach like future jobs in education. So yeah, in the next couple years, I plan on going back to school for a master's, and studying conservation biology in some way or another. And I know that science and education are just like inherently intertwined. And I feel like that's something that can be overlooked sometimes. So I'm really looking forward to using the skills that I've strengthened, the communication skills that I've strengthened over this year, to help me as I go down that path. So yeah, I not only want to be able to like conduct really meaningful research, but I also want to be able to communicate with the public in meaningful ways too.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you, all three. To wrap up, unbelievably, I'd love to hear one more time from each of you to tell us what will you carry with you from this experience. And if you know where you're carrying it to, I know everybody would love to hear that. So, um, yeah. Sarah, we already know where you're carrying yours to. Do you want to kick us off?
Yes, I can do that. Really, I am just going to carry with me the appreciation that I have for the people and students I got to work with. I don't know if I would have built up the confidence to become a classroom teacher if I hadn't had all of the experiences that I've had at Dinosaur Ridge as a camp counselor in my first eeCorps term and then in the second term. Um, I also got to learn from a lot of people who have way more experience than me in a whole variety of different things, which is obviously invaluable. Yeah, so I think that I mean, I could just ramble on for longer about that, but I think those are probably my main takeaways.
Amazing. Thanks, Sarah. Therese, you want to tell us what you're going to take from this experience?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of talked about it a little bit, but um there's so much to take from this service term, but I think I'm definitely gonna, when I'm thinking back on it, think about the people the most. Getting to know the other eeCorps members has been really a highlight of the term, spending time together, whether during service or not. And the staff at Bergen Conservancy have all been so supportive and kind, as well as a little unhinged. And I have learned so much just from being around them. And I also feel just incredibly grateful to the people who have participated in our programs and like trusted me to teach them about birds and nature. And I've also just learned so much from them. So yeah, it's just been I've met just so many incredible people over this term, and I'm definitely gonna carry that with me from this experience. Yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Therese. And Hailey.
Once again, I'm going to be echoing you both. I think the people that I have been in network with or have mentored me in some type of way, even if that was just through a conversation I've had, I have learned so much and it's forced me to grow whether I liked it or not. And I think that that's something I'll cherish forever and be so grateful for. And we got to connect with so many different types of people doing really good things for the environment. And I was inspired almost, I think, every day. If it wasn't through like an adult, it was through a student. And for example, we volunteered at a farm called Masa Farm in Boulder one day, and they're doing research on bioregional adapted seeds and how it helps climate change and, food security, food justice. I've been inspired by Miriam, who you all met earlier, but just her commitment and passion she has and brings into school food spaces. And these movements have just unlocked something within me and keeps me inspired, like I said. And then I think, yeah, what I will be taking with me is just inspiration. And I will be in August, I'm going to be teaching my own little kindergarten class at a Waldorf school. Very excited about that. I will be an assistant teacher. And one of the things I asked in my interview is what is the flexibility of bringing in environmental ed on like a grand scale? And they said, hey, you're at a perfect place. We have a greenhouse and we have trails behind our school, and you have flexibility to bring in these topics that you've explored through your term. So that's super awesome. So the lessons that I've kind of explored during my term, hopefully I can kind of transfer it over in a meaningful way. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that I get to even do that and have the skills to do that.
Amazing.
And for everyone here, you are all awesome and doing really awesome things. So
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you to all three of you. Thank you to everyone for being here. Let me remove these spotlights real quick. Here we go. So yeah, thank you again to everyone who joined us. It was great to see so many folks here to celebrate this group. Please throw any final reactions, comments, questions in the chat. Probably not questions, reactions and comments maybe. And of course, most importantly, a huge thank you to Hailey, Therese, and Sarah, not only for sharing your reflections on the term with us today, but more importantly, for sharing your effort, your energy, your heart with the eeCorps and with your service sites all term long, and for the impact you have made in the process for us, for our program, for your communities, for your organizations, and for our world. And you are all going forward to do such cool things and to continue that impact going forward. So cool to see. It's been an honor to be a part of it with you all. So yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you all again, and I hope everybody has a great evening. Thanks for being here.